Um, Stacy, can you take a roll call vote, please?
Certainly. Councilman Gary Donovan. You're on mute. I know he's here. I see him. Councilwoman Colleen O'Connor.
Councilwoman Colleen O'Connor, Council at Large here.
Councilwoman Bridget Hosky.
Councilwoman Bridget Hosky, 1st District, present.
Councilman William X. Conlon. He is here.
He was here, but I don't see him on any longer.
Yeah. Maybe.
So we have to wait till he comes back.
Right. Councilwoman Elizabeth Johnston.
Johnston, District 3, present.
Councilman Mitch Galignano.
Councilwoman Mitchell Galignano, 4th District, present.
Councilwoman Robin Hamilton.
Councilwoman Robin Hamilton, 5th District, present.
Councilman Peter Massaro.
Councilman Pete Massaro, 6th District, present.
Councilwoman Trenae McGee is absent. Councilwoman Crystal Finelli.
Councilwoman Crystal Finelli, 8th District, present.
Councilman Robert Bruno.
Councilman Robert Bruno, 9th District, present.
Councilman Barry Lee Cohen.
Councilman Barry Lee Cohen, 10th District, present.
And Chairman Ron Quagliati.
Councilman Ron Quagliani, Council at Large, present.
So Gary Donovan said he's having Wi-Fi issues. So hopefully he is going to figure that out, log in and log back out. So
Conlon might be also. I did see him earlier.
Me too. So basically, the same rules of engagement. We have Tom McCarthy here with us. Tom, come on. Do you have anyone else with you, or is it just you?
I do, Madam Chairman. I have Abdul Qadir from the Engineering Department and Lou Esposito, if there's any questions on City Hall maintenance.
Okay, excellent. So generally what we do is we let you guys present, and then we will have a roundtable. We limit each council person to typically 2 questions, and then we just go around, and then if the council person has additional questions, they'll get to that on the second round. We do ask that everybody stay muted, so if I'm like asking you a question, Tom, just mute your mic, and then when you answer, I'll mute mine, so there's like no back feed. We found that that's been pretty helpful over the last week or so.
Sure.
So take it away, and we are very glad you guys are here this evening. We do appreciate it.
We're very pleased to be here, and I can speak of the overall Public Works portion of it. Stayed within budget last year. We have a very lean budget proposed for this year. Very few increases. The areas that we are concerned with ourselves, cost of picking up garbage. And we had a few HVAC issues anticipated, but as far as our budget itself goes year over year, we don't have any crazy outliers.
Tom, I'm sorry. Can we all mute ourselves? We're not all muted, and I'm just getting back feed. Thanks so much, Tom. Excuse me. I'm sorry.
Not a problem. So we're very pleased to be here. We have a favorable Public Works budget. We're within budget from last year. We don't have any crazy extra expenses this year. We're anticipating the cost of picking up garbage will be $200,000 or so more. It's just it's every town, it's every city, it's every state. Just costs more now to get rid of your garbage. We also had some overruns on HVAC. Those are items that you can't anticipate. So we've added a little money to the budget for that. But other than that, we have a very flat budget. I can turn the camera, Madam Chairwoman, and Abdul can, and Lou can also chime in if you'd like.
I'm talking, but I'm unmuted. Is there anything that they would like to say or present to the council? Then absolutely.
They feel the same way, Madam Chair, that, our budgets are pretty much in line.
No, thank you so much for that. So I will open it up to the council to ask questions. I'll go with the Finance Committee first. Are there any questions? Councilman Bruno.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Tom, appreciate the budget being lean. You're doing a good job over there, Public Works. And I have a couple of questions. And if you run through the status of the Public Works fleet in the 5-year plan, so what is this? And over the 5-year plan as far as the Public Works fleet goes.
Councilman, are you asking me what is the status of the fleet right now?
Yeah, and what would it be going forward in the plan?
So our fleet as it stands now is actually not in great shape. We have some significant needs. The biggest one probably is a trash truck. Our trash truck is at its last legs. We have 2 of them. We're keeping them together thanks to Bob Orifice. We do have, thanks to former Mayor Ed O'Brien, we do have 10 very good plow trucks. But other than that, just about everything we have is obsolete at this point. So the mayor asked us to put an honest assessment of what we would need going forward. And that's why you see in our wish list, there's some significant asks for Public Works.
I kind of thought that, Tom. That's why I was asking. So you feel that some of these needs could be addressed over the next 5 years?
I certainly do, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. And Madam Chair, can I ask my second question now? Bridget.
Sorry, I was muted. Yes. Yep. Go right ahead.
Tom, are you going to additional funding for building repairs and responsibilities to like school or the P? Need any additional funding for that going over the next 5 years?
So honestly, that's a tricky question to answer because, for instance, we did not know that the Bailey roof was on its last legs and was going to, become an emergency, if you will. And unfortunately, our Public Works budget is the last place that you go if you don't find money anywhere else. So the answer is yes. We don't have a separate line item for police department. So literally the first week we got here, I was on the roof of the police department, finding $30,000 for an HVAC repair we didn't anticipate. So the answer to your question is yes, all these buildings are starting to deteriorate and additional money would be helpful. But, the question then becomes where do we get it from? So
there's no separate line item, right? Thank you. I have nothing else, Bridget.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions from the finance? Councilman Cohen?
Thank you, Chairwoman. Hi, Tom and Lou and Abdul. Thank you for being here tonight. I appreciate it. I also want to say before I start, I really want to just say to all of Public Works, to Tom, your team, and everyone, especially given the pandemic that we're in, I've seen firsthand the additional work that you guys have done and a lot of work you guys have done out of your heart, from helping Vertical Church to just basically helping out people whatever they need, wherever they could. And I didn't want that to go unnoticed because you guys have really come together and are really making me proud as a West Haven person. So I wanted to say that right out front. Thank you. The other thing that I wanted to bring out, and you mentioned it, Tom, is that your budget is in most cases very lean. I have to give your team a lot of credit that I actually did see some decreases in overtime in certain vehicle information, and it was, and to a point that you just made to Councilman Bruno, none of us have a crystal ball, and there might be some capital items that might happen, God forbid, like another roof coming through. But with that said, it's a tight budget. My only question that I have, and it's really to get a fuller understanding, is I went to page 114 of the mayor's proposed budget, and it's the sewer use operating fund. It was basically in-house sewer operations. And the only thing that seemed to be out of line for me was that over the years, like last year we had a 490,000 overtime budget above and beyond regular wages. And next year we increased it $57,000. And what I basically did, for full disclosure, about a week ago, because I wasn't sure who was in charge of what, is I gave Jack Crosby a call, who I believe is the supervisor there, and to try to get some clarity. And of course, I was going to get clarity from you this evening. And from what I can understand, about 2/3 of that budget is really compulsory. Things happen. If something happens overnight and a pipe breaks, or there's some major problem that has to be attended to, given the number of employees that you have, there might be compulsory. But then about 1/3 of it's non-compulsory. That was one comment that was made to me. And, true or false, that was a comment that was made to me. So basically, you're talking 360,000 of it being compulsory for various reasons, and about 180, which is non-compulsory, which I'd be interested in. The other thing that I asked right up front was, it's like, oh my goodness, why so much proportionately in overtime versus regular wages? Because normally overtime kind of pays for itself. And I understand that we've had an employee that's been, or an employee which has been on sick leave for quite a while. Maybe he's coming back, maybe we're hiring a new employee. So my question is two parts. A, if you can explain to me, perhaps wouldn't it be more profitable or more beneficial for the city to hire someone versus paying so much overtime proportionately? And B, would there be an opportunity for us to decrease some of that non-compulsory overtime? It just seems like we might need another person, and we're holding off hiring someone or something just because of the large disproportion of 1.8 million in wages and 547,000 in overtime. Thank you. That's my questions A and B.
Thank you, Barry. First of all, I want to thank you for recognizing some of the things that Public Works does. We certainly didn't anticipate some of the roles we find ourselves in. I certainly will pass on your regards to the guys and girls of Public Works, so that is much appreciated. I'll offer you two thoughts on the overtime at the WPCA. One, their contract is different than 681's, which is the rank and file for Public Works, and 1103, which is the management union. One of the biggest differences is what is called for emergency call-ins. When we have one down at WPCA, per the contract, 2 people have to come in. So that's one of the factors driving the overtime. And the second thing is the WPCA operates on a 24-hour system. We have 3 different shifts running all the time. So we very carefully monitor how much the overtime costs. And there does come a time, as you suggested, where when it gets to a certain point, it does make sense to hire somebody. But remember, if every person you hire, you have to slot them in for 1 shift. So you still have overtime needs for the other 2 shifts. So it is a complicated thing, and we do. But even having spent $300,000, when you factor in benefits and everything else across the 3 slots, it may not actually make sense to hire somebody just yet. So
have you looked at that though? Because I mean, I know I'm being very simpleton here. I realize, and I thank you for the explanation, because
we do look at that from time to time, and we have hired some people because it made sense. The overtime was getting too far out of whack.
So basically, right now, I mean, everyone's tight on resources. I get that, but right now, given if you excluded overtime just for a moment, okay, and you took a look at the number of staff that you have, and given what you said, but really you have to hire in 2s, if you will. It's not really hiring in 1s in a way, because you got to make sure that you have a duplicate, if you will. Otherwise, you're paying overtime to the second guy regardless. Okay, so I say that, even with that, to address, and again, I just want to know the fact from the fiction. You're giving me facts, and I appreciate that. Is if that 547 and change is required, how much of that, though, is what I would consider to be, what I always call the needs to have and the nice to have. You explained to me the large portion, the reason of the need to make the overtime to be so much based on contracts, based on the Noah's Ark 2x2, if you will. Okay, but is there any? I hate to say this. Is there any fat in there about when I keep hearing about the non-compulsory or there? You know, are we holding this job for somebody who's out sick, or is it just a matter of, hey, listen, we're running full steam and this is what it is? I'm just want to get.
We're actually, our flow, the amount of flow coming into the system has actually come down. But again, you're still having to run all 3 shifts. So yes, it's something we monitor. You know, I'd be lying to you if I didn't tell you there was there's always a little fat someplace, but
Sure.
we don't allow it to where we should have hired somebody and we're wasting the overtime.
Yeah, and the reason why I bring it up is, like I said earlier, all of your other budget lines, in my opinion, are, you know, I've seen some decreases in overtime here and there, and I've seen some really responsible adjustments within your auto, you know, from auto repair to auto mechanic. You know, the lines, I'm saying them wrong. So if that's the reasoning, that's fine. I just wanted to.
2-man requirement is and obviously with the work they do, if they have to go into a manhole, you never want one person to go in by themselves, God forbid. So
No,
that's,
God forbid. Okay.
that's the requirement that it's in there.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that, and I'm going to yield the floor because I had like 2.5 questions there. So thank you, Tom. Thank you, Chairwoman. All right.
Thank you, Councilman Cohen. If anyone else have any questions? Councilwoman Hamilton, I'm going to turn my light on. Councilwoman Hamilton.
Good evening, Tom, and the other folks that are in the room with you. I want to echo what Councilman Cohen said and thank your crew for all that you do for the West Haven residents. It's really appreciated. I noticed that there's $800,000 in the budget for paving roads. Can you tell us how you're going to dole that out this year?
Yeah. So I would be happy to. The truth of the matter is that we would need about $20 million to fix to begin putting a dent in some of the roads here, and it's a conversation I've had with the chairman. I do believe that at some point we have to pivot and do what's called crack sealing. I'm not sure it's an application for residential streets. I have actually bid out a bunch of it. I'd like to make that proposal to the council. What it will do is extend the life of our roads for about 5 years as we get ourselves into better shape. $800,000 probably would not pave, 10 roads in West Haven of any decent size. So I think we have to put a significant amount of our money into stabilizing existing roads as opposed to necessarily doing new roads.
So are you going to just like target certain roads, or are you asking council people to bring those roads to you, or you kind of know where the paving needs to go?
So I think all of us have a good idea, and I certainly would defer to the council people. We have suggested in the past that maybe the council, or we've talked about it, but I think it's a good idea that maybe each individual council person bring forward what they think are the worst 3 roads in their district. And having said that, if 2 or 3 of the worst roads are in one district, we should do them. It shouldn't, in the past we've said, here's 80,000 for each council person, and it's not productive because each time you move from one street halfway across the city, you're spending money for what they call mobilization. So I think we should be more thoughtful about where we put the money. It doesn't, the streets don't know where they are.
Right. Last year, you invited the council to take rides with you, and I took advantage of that, and it was very helpful. Are you offering that this year?
As soon as the pandemic is over.
That's right. I forgot about that. We can follow you in a car or something.
Absolutely, and I love doing that. I absolutely love doing that.
All right. Thank you, Councilwoman Hosky. That's all I have for now.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hamilton. Does anyone else have any questions? Councilwoman Finelli?
Hi, thanks. There's just two, kind of the same question about 2 different line items. I noticed on page 76 of the mayor's proposed budget for automotive fuels and fluids, it looks like in 2019, we only spent 163,000 on that. And then this year it was 325, and then you're asking for 300. I'm just wondering if there was something different that was being done last year, why we had such lower costs in that?
No, we've had some, Councilwoman, thank you for the question. We've had some significant repairs that we've had to make, and it's more a reflection of how aged our fleet has become, that each year it just costs more and more. The other part of that is, for example, we never know when a police car is going to come in and it's involved in some sort of an accident. But there's a little bit of an unknown in that line item as well.
But for fuels and fluids, I mean, is that like paying for gas for the cars and like oil, that sort of thing?
Yeah, no, that's the hydraulic fuels. That is all of that stuff.
Okay, so that's like for repairs. That's not regular things. And then also kind of what Barry had mentioned on page 114 about the overtime for the sewage fund. I just noticed again in 2016, we only spent 326,000 on overtime, and then this year was. Other years it's been over 500,000. Again, I'm just wondering, is there something that we could be doing that we did back then that was a savings, or is that just kind of a fluke year that you didn't have a lot of people out sick or something?
It is a fluky thing, Councilman, because for instance, I'm going to look like a hero with snow plowing this year. It's hit or miss. Next year, you get 10 feet. The other thing is we had a lot of, so last year we had Rock Street, we were pumping on a bypass, so you never know when you do it, and then that's overtime all over the place. So it does fluctuate. It goes up and it goes down, and there really isn't any rhyme or reason to it.
Okay. All right.
We've done very well this year with sewer leaks, so we haven't had that big a problem.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilwoman Finelli. Councilman Gaglione.
Galignano, I'll get you there. Good evening, Mr. McCarthy. How are you? So, Tom, I want to echo everybody else's saying on what a great job you guys have been doing. So, thank you for everything you guys do. So, I have
Galileo.
Yeah, thank you, Thomas. You know how to say my name too. At least I said Mr. McCarthy. So,
thank you. I will pass that on. Thank you very much.
You brought up snow plowing, and I'm going to bring up, because you didn't spend no money this year on snow plowing. I see that line item is going down for next year. And I want to bring up the overtime because we transferred 30 grand over to there to make it to 230 for this year. But you're only proposing 225 for next year. You think that's going to be enough? And your snow plowing line item is down 30 grand, and you think you're going to be okay with that?
I believe I will. Look, I may be coming back to you if we get hit with a blizzard. I certainly would be coming back to you for more money. But on average, so for instance, I have 400 tons of salt up in the shed right now. So that's a credit coming in from last year. We got lucky. I will say this much to you: we had a few ice storms early on, and the ice storms actually cost more money than snowstorms. Believe it or not, it's easier to push a foot of snow than it is, an inch of ice. So we did spend some money. We are looking good. No question. If we have a blizzard of any type next year that's bad, I probably would overrun my budget. But given you have to put something in, I feel comfortable that I can handle, many snowstorms with this money.
And you're okay with the overtime line item?
I am. It's a fair number, and yourself. We know, no one planned for a pandemic, so it could change. But I do feel like, Councilman, it's a fair number for us to have.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I'm good.
Thank you. Councilman Massaro?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Tom, I got two questions. One's about the budget and one's not about the budget. My first question is, I see an increase of $200,000 for street lighting. What's that for? Is that for lights on the green or that? I thought that was under a grant.
So we actually own a certain portion of the streetlights in the city. Or the ones on Campbell Avenue, for instance, the ones on the green, the Nike site, any of the playgrounds. That's what.
Oh, okay. All right. Now, my second question is this. I know the mayor came out with an order about the boardwalk to be closed because of this virus. Now I still see people walking that. Is there any way we could stop and put barricades up there and stop them completely from walking on that boardwalk so we could be in compliance with the general order of the state of Connecticut?
So great question, Chief. And actually, the order was from Maureen Lillis. The mayor has been fantastic in because this is a health emergency. Maureen Lillis, as the health director, has taken the lead, and honestly, it's been great to see how the working relationship has been, and we have taken, for the most part, our marching orders from Maureen Lillis. It is personally one of the great disappointments I have that we, the city, have closed all of our lots, all of the public lots to the public. It's been very successful. We have a few lots, 3 in the city along the waterfront that are privately owned that we are having difficulty getting closed. To your point, we have moved forward, Pete, and we are beginning the sidewalk repairs on the boardwalk, in fact, tomorrow. So I will be stationing my people there with stall horses, and we will close that boardwalk, I promise you, tomorrow.
Okay, thanks.
That's
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Massaro. Are there any other questions? Chairman?
Thank you. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Chairman.
So I have 2 7-part questions. Oh, no. I have 2 questions. So my first one is there currently an assistant to the commissioner?
Yes, we do have assistant now. That is Rob Sandell.
Oh.
There is not there's a position called Assistant Public Works Commissioner. That position is not filled, but there is an assistant to the public works. It's nuanced, but it's 2 different positions.
Well, the individual that left to head up the Park and Rec department, that position I'm talking about.
Yes, sir. That position is the assistant to the Public Works Commissioner.
Okay. And so then then
position,
the purchasing position is currently open right now?
above
Maybe
my
Frank.
pay grade, I would have to defer to the mayor on any personnel decisions. I believe, is the mayor here?
Yeah, Mayor, or Frank, or somebody they could answer that?
That position is currently open right now. Rob Sandella has been filling in, and we have, during the pandemic, reassigned Mark Basakia, because at one point in time he was the purchasing agent. So we do it. That's not his official job, Mark Basakia, but during this it is. So and Rob Sandella has been very good about tying up any loose ends or anything like that and helping wherever he can with RFPs or anything like that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is the engineering part of this discussion tonight?
Yes.
So I want to go to the MS4 mandate, and I don't know if that's for you, Tom, or for Frank.
I have Abdul here, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, or Abdul. So I understand what the MS4 mandate is. I know it's for stormwater management and catch basins and things. But I know that we've been doing this for the last several years, and I think that we used to bond for the money. So I noticed that this is the first time that although I do see $150,000 from this current year. Do you know the history of that fund? Maybe Frank can answer that, or no?
Abdul's gonna come in and talk.
Okay.
Abdul.
Good evening.
Hi, Abdul. So I'm interested in the MS4 mandate. Is this number, is that where do we get that number from? Is that a required number, 250,000?
No, it's not required number. We are required to do certain thing every year, and that number is based on the requirement. We have over 300 outfalls that we are supposed to tackle it. We have to do some other work, and this is the maximum that we can afford. We love to get more money, but we can't afford it, so we are spacing out those expenditure over 4 or 5 years.
So unfortunately, I heard like every other word, but I'm getting that you have a lot of work to do, and this is what we could afford, but we could use a lot more money if we had it.
That's right.
Is that right?
Yes.
Frank, does this money have to be in the operating budget?
Yes, it's not a capital project money.
No? Okay. And Tom, that's all, Abdul. Thank you for that. Tom, just one comment. So I've had some constituents complain, and I don't know if it's yours or not, or maybe it's Fred's, but when you talked about closing lots, there's a lot on the corner of 3rd Avenue Extension and Beach Street. That's, I think, probably part of the galley or the old galley. I don't know if that's a city lot or the galley lot, but I know there are a lot of people that are parking in that lot, and we've had.
Those are 2 of the 3 lots, Chairman. They're owned by the same family.
All right. So is there any, who would be able to contact them to see if they could close those lots or put some barricades up at those lots? Because I know that on a nice day that lot is full, and we've got some complaints about that.
You're absolutely right. So I had an encounter with the family. We had closed their lot. I was given permission by Maureen Lewis. They did not react well to that, so we ended up having to have the lot open again. I have gotten new phone numbers for the family from the health department, and I had a meeting with the mayor and Louis Mazzito this afternoon, and we agreed that we would respectfully reach out one more time and see if we couldn't come to some agreement. We've offered to pay the price to secure the lots. Just give us for instance, the mosque on South Street. We approached them. They said, absolutely, close it, do what you need to do. This is the only family that's giving us some pushback.
Appreciate that. At least, so it's good to know that you're aware of it and you're working on it. So that's good. Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm all set, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Tom, I have a couple of questions. I require clarification. Before I get to the questions I had, the 200,000 that you were talking to Chairman Massaro about for street lighting, can you tell me exactly what that 200,000 does? Does it pay for the street lighting, or are you looking to purchase?
No, we own our own streetlights, and we have to pay for that. And our electric bills have traditionally, we have downplayed the number. So the mayor has put an honest number in, which is all, finding out what real numbers are. We've been actually putting in real numbers.
Okay.
We have traditionally underpaid the cost of the electric.
Okay. So, correct me if I'm wrong, you kind of pretty much oversee the parks, right? So if there's going to be stuff done, you have your hand in the pot to create that?
To some extent, yes.
So do you want one of my suggestions? You know what I would love to see, and I know at the tail end of it, or the initial cost of it may be a little bit more expensive, but I would love to see our parks start being the lights, you know, if we're going to upgrade, I think you said Nike Park or the lights up there, that they're solar. You can, you know, they have solar street lights, they have solar park lights. You know, I was looking into lights for one of the parks because there's no lights at that park, and I did the cost assessment, and you can buy lights that are just turned on by solar. And I just think that when you're looking for cost efficiency, that, you know, I would just love for the city to do more of that, especially when we go around and we start doing these upgrades, you know, especially because there's money in the budget for Nike site that we don't need all the lights that flick, 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 flick. We could just do some of the lights that will just come on because they were powered by solar. That was not a question. It was just a request.
A wonderful idea.
Another council people, that doesn't count as one of my questions.
That's a wonderful idea. I will be straightforward with you. Right now, we haven't been thinking about solar. We've been more concerned with getting off of sodium halide and getting onto LEDs. So we still have some lights that are costing a small fortune because they're not LEDs yet. So we have bid all that out.
So when you do the upgrade at Nike site, you won't be looking at updating any of the lighting there?
We will. I haven't looked at solar. We had looked at LED. I'm not sure you can do solar lights, you know, for football games, for basketball games, but you may well be able to do them for, you know, street lighting or security lighting, things like that. So certainly can.
And you're absolutely right. Like, I think there comes a point where you have to turn the lights on and make sure that if it's a city-run event, that there's enough lights. But I think the lights that you have on for, say, security, or not security, but that you just have on so it's a lighted environment, that you can go with those type things, because I think that's just one of, you know, you go into New Jersey and you I don't know if anyone's ever flown out of Newark, but all around, it's everywhere. Their street lights are all solar. Everything is solar. So I guess I'm just thinking that if Newark, New Jersey can do it, that, you know, it's something that we could start looking at. I have another question in regards on the operating fund, the heating oil. It's $780,000 that you guys are looking for, and I'm not saying that it's not the right amount, but have we looked at other heating sources? Like, is there another way, or what does that do something that maybe, you know, is it running a machine and I just don't know, or is it actually heating? What is it heating oil doing?
So, well, there's a couple of ways to answer that. The first is we did put a hydrogen fuel cell in down there, which is proving to be. I don't think we've had it operational long enough yet to know. We had a few little problems with it, but we have put a hydrogen cell down there. We couldn't put two. We put one, which is all you can put. And then, of course, we create a cake product without getting too graphic here, and we use quite a bit of fuel oil to do that. So, do you have any other? Right. So those are the two main drivers. But there is a hydrogen fuel cell, which is, I believe, is going to save money when we know exactly returns all on it.
Frank, did you want to chime in?
From what I've been told, that is historically the account that they use to pay for the sludge incineration.
Yeah, I was just curious because it's like it jumps every year, and I'm thinking it jumps by a lot, and I don't know that heating had that kind of, you know. I mean, utility business. Yeah, that's what I was like.
The same question. So, but that's the line they use to record who they're paying to incinerate the sludge.
Yeah, and now that you're telling me that, I think I've asked that in prior years, but for whatever reason, it doesn't stick in my knowledge base. Did anyone else, thank you so much. Does anyone else have any additional questions? Councilman Bruno?
Thank you very much, Bridget. Tom, is there any projected revenue from the compost site?
There actually is revenue. One of the things. So Rob Sandella, about 8 months ago, made a significant change to the way Public Works operates, and I'll just give you a quick example. Take Washington and the beginning of Washington and the end of Beach. There's a guardrail there that gets taken out once a year. Well, Public Works gets told about the guardrail. We fix the guardrail. The money comes back from the insurance company. If it does come back from the insurance company, and it gets put into the general fund. So now Rob made a change where that gets reflected and credited to Public Works. So the other area, the compost site, is we actually do generate revenue. It's not reflected here, but I think Frank could probably, we sell compost, we sell, we grind wood chips, we sell those. We account for everything, and but I think there's a disconnect with whether we get credit for it or not.
Okay, I appreciate that. And I was wondering if, if there's any fees there that can be raised, with the contractors that, dump and whatnot down there. That was one of my questions.
We no longer allow contractors to dump down there. You have to be a resident of the city of West Haven.
When they, whatever they're bringing down there, is there a fee for that, Tom?
No, they have to, as long as they're a city resident, they just have to show their ID.
Thank you very much on that. I appreciate it. And the only thing I want to bring to mind, Tom, was I had a complaint on, you may have already addressed it, on Sunday, Street, Ocean Avenue. I guess they cut the chain down and the parking lot was overfilled over there. Nothing else, Bridget. Thank you.
Councilman Khan?
Thank you. It's just for the chairwoman, actually, and I know that that Tom knows this as well. I am not a lighting guru of the parks by any stretch of the imagination, but about a month ago, given the pandemic and so forth, I communicated with the outdoor lighting representative for the UI because I was submitting a quote for Tom's consideration to submit to the council on lighting. And just as a heads up, what they were waiting for and what they have in stock now versus what we could have gotten, but would have not have been as cost effective, as if you will, is they're looking at LED lights. And so, it was a much more cost effective alternative for a number of reasons. So they're basically right now, in terms of their energy saving initiative and what they used to call Night the Light, but now they call it UI outdoor lighting. They're doing a lot with LED now that they weren't even doing 6 weeks ago. That's all. Just figured I'd give you a heads up. Thank you.
I'm aware of all of that. Does anyone else have any questions for Tom, Chairman?
Hey, Tom, can we talk trash a little bit? So every year we talk about trash and recycling and condominium pickup and the whole bit. So they're big numbers. So how are we, I would imagine that the trash pickup line is the contract with whoever it is, American Waste. There's a contract out, right? Set how many year contract is that? Has that just went out to bid?
No, it just came back and we had one bidder, as we had the last time it went out to contract, one bidder.
And how long is the contract for?
3 years.
Okay. I don't know if we would see that or not. I'm not quite sure if Frank, would we see a contract like that?
I would think, as a courtesy, you should anyway, even though there is only one bidder.
Okay, yeah, I don't remember seeing it. Okay, and tipping fees is actually the amount of refuse that we have goes to the weigh scale, they weigh it, and that's how you get charged, right, by the truck?
Yeah, so we pay two ways. We pay for the trucking and then we pay for the tipping fee. You know, the trucking is part of the contract and then the tipping fee is the tipping fee.
How do we know that the trucks are empty when they start each day here?
You don't.
So what's typically done, I don't know, in other communities? Is there someone tasked to that, or how? I mean, I would imagine that we have an opportunity to be losing a lot of money, right? If these trucks are coming in, and I'm not insinuating they are, but if they're not coming in empty, then we're paying for somebody else's waste.
Yeah, so the only thing I can tell you is that every once in a while, like we have bulk going on this week in case nobody knew. In the morning I'll jump up on the cab of the truck and there's a screw that you can see in the back, and depending on how far up that screw is, it indicates whether the truck is empty or not. So we will occasionally, Rob is out there at 4 in the morning, I'm out there in the morning. So there is a spot check, if you will, once in a while, just to keep them honest. But there was a position years and years ago. That was the old Carl Guarneri position. And that's what that position was. But, you know, honestly, Chairman, at this point, when we're answering our own phones in administration, it's hard to justify just that position. But I concede to you that there is the potential for abuse. Again, we have one bidder, so there's a little bit of an honor system to it.
Is there an opportunity with the contract to do it, to change shift hours? Like with Public Works?
Can you explain a little more?
Well, I mean, maybe instead of doing whatever they work, 7, I don't know, what are their hours? 7 in the morning till?
My guys?
Yeah.
Normal is 7 to 3.
You don't have listen, I know that you have staffing issues, so that's probably not the answer, but I'm just trying to find a way to, because again, that's a significant number. So if there's a way to again, keep them honest. In your spot checks, have you ever found any issues?
No, I honestly, I haven't. They've been pretty good. I will say this much, Mr. Chairman. We've started in some of the releases we've put out from Public Works. But right now, today, the single most important thing we could do is get people, and I'm willing to enforce it if I get a little buy-in, is if we could get people to put covers on their damn cans, we would save the $200,000 that we're going to spend in increased tipping fees. I have no doubt in my mind. You take a comforter that gets put in a trash can with the lid off and it got rained on today, I guarantee you it weighs 5 times more than the comforter should, and we pay by the weight. That is the single biggest driver of our increased cost, without a doubt.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, even with the bulk, Mr. Chairman, it's going to be a record-breaking bulk if people are home.
Thank you. I just want to follow up with what you just said. So when you say if you can get buy-in, who do you want to purchase? Like when you who?
I think us as the leaders, you know, are we willing to not pick someone's garbage up if they won't, after we warn them, say 2-3 times? I don't know what the number is, 2 times. Are we willing to not pick their garbage up and deal with the pushback? It's as much a political question as anything else.
Right. So just to follow up with that, because a couple of years ago, I think maybe when I started on the council, I had asked about, you know, recycling, about, you know, what are the different ways that we can cut costs. So when I put out, and I know that different people have different carbon footprints. So mine is probably a little smaller than most. But I said, why don't we do recycling similar, like every other week or twice a month. And I know we have a contract. I don't know if when Lou was in your position, he told me that. So I don't know if the contract is coming up for expiration, but I do know, how much money can we save there? The bill is almost at $500,000 a year. So if we did it twice a month, if we gave people, maybe larger recycling containers if they needed it, or two, however we wanted to do it, is that something we've looked at yet? Because it is something that we've mentioned, and I don't know why we haven't been able to. I don't know. Maybe we did do a study and it isn't feasible.
No, it's a great question. It's a great question. So what we did is we looked at, in fact, we put it into the bid that we put out. We looked at it a couple of different ways. Whether we went to automation. Automation would work for Allentown. It would work for the shore. It'd be very problematic in the center district. Trying to go down Campbell Avenue and hook an arm onto cans that you can't get to is impractical. Second thing we looked at is we bid out what it would cost to go to a bigger recycling, and I believe it was it was about $700,000 for the city to outlay everybody. So we just don't have that money right now. Currently, their contract, it's the same company that picks up the garbage. So when I say 3 years, it's 2 years plus another one option. So potentially we have them for 3 years. They'd probably be delighted to not pick up the recycling every week, but I'm not sure they'd give you a discount with this contract.
So when is the contract up?
This is the first year of 2, and then there's a third. But remember, no one else bids, so you're beholden to the one company.
Right. So if we put that we wanted it done twice a month, they can tell us no?
No, not under a new. We can stipulate anything we want under a new contract. You would have to wait for the 2 years.
Right. I mean, I just think that is something that, maybe we should consider, because truthfully, sometimes I don't put mine out for 3 weeks. And sometimes I really only put it out because I don't recycle. I don't bring back my bottles. I wait for whoever comes and checks my recycling thing to take all my bottles out. So once that's gone, I can really just take the recycling back in my house. So I just think that when we're looking for avenues, that maybe that is something that somebody needs to write down when we're reconsidering that that contract, that if we do it twice a month, does it realistically equate to saving 50%?
It's a very good point. I'm not sure that it would, because you do have some houses. We have houses that put out 4 or 5 at a time. The issue I feel that we would have to think about is if we don't increase the size of the can, and we went to bi-weekly, we'll have people putting stuff, it'll just blow all over the roads, and it'll cause a different problem.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, it's certainly we should bid it out. Whoever's doing it should bid it out. See if that's an option.
I had another question. I don't know where it is, but I did want to one thing before I lose my turn. When you were telling and I forgot who it was about the overtime, is the $50,000 increase or $57,000 increase? What is that specifically? Is it the difference? Like, what I mean, I know that that's always been a large item in the sewer use fund, but the $57,000 is addressing what? Like, is it raises? Is it the shift change?
Would you mind telling us what line item that is?
The sewer fund, the overtime, the $57,000. I know you were talking about that. There's no way to be lean. There's no way to. I think it was Councilman Cohen was talking to me.
So the only issue for us is like last year we had a lot of sewer breaks. We had Woodmont Road, we had Rock Street, we had some big sewer leaks. This year we're running good. You know, we really tightened it down. So, but again, next year, the infrastructure is old. All these pipes are really old. So if a sewer main breaks, you could lose $250,000 over a weekend. So, and then it's all overtime on bypass and stuff like that. So a lot of it, I'm being honest with you, is just, it's a guesstimate. It's our best guesstimate as to what we project, but it could come in way under, it could come in way over.
Right.
It would be no fault of anybody's, potentially.
I forgot to have a caveat to the garbage. The mattresses. Sorry. Hold on. Sorry. The mattresses. What is, I know you guys are doing a fantastic job with it. Like, can you explain to us, like, really how you guys are combating this? Because it is still such a thing. I don't think it's as bad, but then I'm a stay-at-home person. So can you just talk to that real quick? And I know I did an additional question, but it was based on the garbage.
And this is now having sat in this seat for, a couple of years. As I always say, you don't know some things until you know them. Specifically to the mattresses, we entered into an agreement with the Mattress Council to get mattresses picked up for free. We have a trailer that we have installed up at 1 College Street, and if anybody brings a mattress up, a clean, dry mattress, and puts it into the trailer, it will be removed for free. What I have found is, and I think this is human nature, I'm out on the street. I was out this morning. I was out yesterday morning with the bulk, and we knock on someone's door. We step back to 6 feet. It is remarkable how many people do not know what the mattress program is. And now, I promise you, I went to The Way It Is. I went on The Voice 4 times in the last 2 weeks, just trying to remind people we don't take mattresses. Beth Sable, when she was the Commissioner of Public Works, I want to say it cost roughly $20,000, but she sent that magnet every year to people that got put on the fridge. And this may be an instance where that $20,000 is money well spent, because we cannot seem to get to some people no matter what we do. And I'm thinking putting it right in their house may be the only way. Quite frankly, I don't know where these people have mattresses that I see out at the curb right now.
You have money in your snow removal fund.
Yep. But I don't know, is that the best use of $20,000? I'd let people smarter than
How much does it cost you to remove all the mattresses?
I don't remove mattresses.
Well, I think there's sometimes where you guys have to come. Haven't come in? I mean, I don't know, maybe.
The only time I come in is when people get clever and they put it someplace where you can attribute it to a homeowner. Then I have no choice but to pick it up.
Okay.
But right now we are stickering all the mattresses, and we're taking it one step further. It's actually this. We are putting these in people's mailboxes. Not just enough to say you can't put the mattress. We're telling you what you can do with it. Chemicals, paints. We tell you everything. It's all in here. So we don't just give you the ticket. We put this information in with it as well.
Okay. Thank you so much. Does anyone else have any questions? Councilman Massara?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Tom, Bridget answered one of my questions about the mattresses. You better get those papers ready, because there's a lot of people in Allentown who got mattresses all over the place. Bristol Street, Westfield Street, they're all over the place. My other question is, who gives out the beach permits? Parks Department?
Not me, Chairman. I know nothing about it. Not my department.
Oh, okay. All right.
I believe it's human. I believe it's human resources. The mayor may have a better handle on it than I do, but it's certainly not Public Works.
Okay. Oh, I figured it was the Parks Department. That's all right. No problem. No problem. I'll get to that when the mayor comes before us.
Okay.
I got an idea. Thank you. Yeah, but you got a problem with mattresses in Allentown, big time.
Yes, sir. We have a problem with mattresses everywhere.
I know. Thank you. That's all I got, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Massaro. Councilwoman Hamilton?
I have 2 more questions, if I may. One is, Tom, you spoke about lids not being put on trash cans. And I noticed that is a problem. I noticed that some people don't even use trash cans. That's a big problem. And it does contribute to a lot of the litter that we find on our streets. When I go through other towns, I notice that towns provide trash containers, very nice ones for their city. And I was wondering, is that something that the cities are buying, or are they finding grants for these containers? Like, how can, cities our side afford such a, luxury? Because it does keep their cities cleaner.
There's no question. There's absolutely no question. And Majority Leader, when we looked at the price, that was just for recycling. It was about $700,000 to equip everybody. There are companies that will work with you, and they will actually buy the containers for you. However, they would want you to enter into a minimum of a 5-year contract. So they would need a certain amount of time to recoup the money.
Okay, so are you saying that it would be too expensive for us to enter into such a contract?
You'd be adding approximately, 1.2 to 1.4 million dollars to a 5-year contract. I'm not saying it's too expensive. I think that's a decision that would have to be made, on the council level, perhaps. I think right now, which is why I came back to that, I do believe that the lid on it, if we were all serious about that, there'd be instant savings right there, just by putting, to your point, getting somebody to buy a can.
Right.
But again, $45 to some people right now is just a great burden.
And I just want to make a statement. This is not a question. We also have not only a mattress problems in our areas, we have a tire problem with people just dumping tires wherever they feel like it. And then it becomes our responsibility to pick it up. That's just as bad as the mattress. The mattresses all over the place.
One of the problems is historically this city has given tremendous benefits to the residents. Whether it was picking up their metal, picking up the food, tires, and now as we slowly wean people off of some of that stuff, even the bulk pickup is now down to twice a year as opposed to the 12 opportunities you had in previous times. And people are, somewhat resentful of the fact that they had a benefit and now you're taking it away. So it's $2.50 for every tire, and it's another $5 if it has a rim on it, and if it has a rim on it. So it's just not anything that this city can entertain doing anymore.
Wow. My second question, if I may, Madam Chair. Tom, I don't know if this is for Park and Recs or if it's for you. Does your crew maintain the Quigley Field, the Quigley Stadium?
Yes.
How and is that like utilized a lot?
I would say to you that baseball is in a hurting place at this point. It is used by the university quite a bit, and then you have the Twilight League as well. Those are the two big users of it.
It is in my district, and if I wanted to take a look at it, who would I contact? Would it be you or Park and Rec? It would be.
I can bring you in anytime you want.
All right, I appreciate that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Can I just follow up on, would everyone mind? I have a question as far as the Quigley Stadium, just since we're on it, can I just question, have we ever thought or looked into, or I don't know who this goes to either, about doing that upgrade? Because I'm thinking, Veterans Memorial Park, it is, Nike site is like the jewel of the city. We're going to be doing some upgrades over there. But then when you think about the baseball side of it, I mean, my grandfather used to play on a sports team over there. So have we looked into funding or trying to get some LoCIP money to do upgrades there? Because like that parking lot is bad. And I know when the pop water team from the city was over there, you know, they used to use it and it could just use some upgrading. Is that on like anybody's wish list?
Right now, I'm wish list is to fix the fence that's in the back there.
Tell me again.
So there's a fence behind home plate disrepair that I do intend to fix, but it's a big ticket. You know, these are $20,000 items. From hitting someone's window. The thing about the parking lot, I'm well aware of how bad it looks, but because we rent out the parking lot for parking, for actual parking, the only time I could get on there is on the weekend on a holiday. So, you know, this, I will get millings in for the summer, but we have not looked at other internal fixes on the ballpark.
Because would we be able to, the Youth and Violence Grant, is that the name of it, that the state representatives, Mike DeMassa and them have gotten us funding? I mean, could we go that route to try to get funding for that parking location to upgrade? Would it?
Potentially, the prevention of violence, we may well be able to piggyback onto that next year.
So who would I send that to? Because I'll do the work. I'll send the email. I'm good at emails.
Yeah, either Representative DeMassa or Representative for.
Okay, I just didn't know if the city compiled a list and then it went out. So, okay, okay, I will do that. I just didn't know if there was possibly is there like a list of requests that you guys send to them, or could anybody make a request? Do you know?
Asking me? Are you asking me?
Yes.
As far as I know, we've worked on it in the past, and you know, Dorinda and Michael normally take the lead. So no, we don't send it over there. We don't send like a list over there or anything at all. Like, we have worked on initiatives in the past, and again, they know all the criteria and what can and cannot be, because every grant is very specific, or at least a lot of the grants are very, very specific as use.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. Does anyone else have any? I just wanted to, because it was something I was going to ask. Does anyone else have any questions for Tom? Councilman Gagliano.
That's okay. So Tom, I want to go back to the trash. And I'm sure this would be a sore subject if we did it. But have we ever thought of having everybody pay for their own trash, right? And I know that nobody would probably go for this, because if you go to other towns and everybody has seen cans with lids on them, you'll see two of them. And there's a big company, USA Waste, out there, and I know them because of my business. They actually give the cans to the residents. Even though you pay for the garbage, they'll give you both cans with lids. And they do it that, and you put your garbage in there and they all have lids. But I'm pretty sure that we've not looked at that. That would be almost a $3 million savings on the city. And I get that we're not an affluent city. And you will see a lot of towns in the state of Connecticut and all over that everybody pays for their own garbage. Have we ever gone down that path or thought about that? Maybe we could save that money that way, and the residents get their own cans because the actual garbage company gives them to the residents for that reason.
That's a great question. So we did actually, we looked at it in a different method, though. There was a presentation made to us. The program called for the citizens to purchase their own bags, garbage bags. Only these City of West Haven logo garbage bags could be picked up. The problem, you guys well know, it will be perceived as a tax. There is no question. I believe 75 cents was the cheapest price you could buy one of the bags for, and it went up, you know, in the gallon sizes. We absolutely have looked at it. It's one of the biggest drivers Public Works has is picking up trash. Actually, it's not a question for me. I think it's a question for you guys. you want to impose this fee on residents. I'll pick the trash up. You guys just tell me how you want it done.
I was just looking at something different, that's all. I just was throwing it out there.
But you can imagine telling people they're gonna have to spend another, $4 or $5 a week on trash bags.
Well, not so much on trash bags, but that you would pay the trash company and not trash bags. So, yeah, right? So if we had USA Waste come in here, they would pick up your trash at your house and they bill your house.
Oh, we've never explored that. We have never explored that.
I'm sure we probably never will because people will probably freak out over it. I just was throwing it out. That was just a thought because if you go around other towns,
No one would be happier than me if you did that, but
I don't think it'll happen. I just threw it out there. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other questions? Chairman?
I think my question's for either fell off his chair or he left the room, so I don't know which. But so Tom, I'll try you first, and then if you can't do that, maybe we'll see what happens. Here's Frank. Frank, I have a question for you. So
Okay.
So we have a revenue line item for Town Aid Road for just north of $600,000. And the only direct expenditure I see that matches that is in Tom's budget for Town Aid Road and Town Aid Road Salt and Sand, and they together about $250,000. What would some other uses of that money be?
That I don't know, but I can certainly look into it for you.
Okay, Tom, do you know?
yes, I believe that I may be able to. We've looked at this recently. I may well be able to purchase a piece of equipment with this. If so, anything that benefits the roads. Honestly, that's as narrowly defined as it is. So potentially, if I put a vehicle on that is, does some benefit to the roads, they will be able to purchase it, or any equipment, road saws to cut the road, things like that.
So that $617,000 has to be spent generally for public works for roadway improvements.
Catch basins, any of the pipes, storm pipes, anything related to them.
Okay. Thank you. I'm all set.
Any other questions? I have a question, Tom. The park maintenance, what are your plans now that, everything's kind of up in the air? You know what I mean? We don't know if we're going to be able to have, the soccer teams at the soccer fields, and we don't know if we're going to be able to have the twilight leagues. Is that going to open up opportunities for you guys to save money or be able to possibly do things that you weren't initially going to be able to do? And, have you been able to give any thought to it?
I think it's a wonderful question, and I think there's some unknown there because as much as we're trying to discourage people from using our facilities, we've taken the nets off of the hoops off of the basketball courts. We're keeping all of the parks closed. Just the fact that we've done that has had an immeasurable benefit to the fields themselves. We've never been able to give them a break like that. Now our challenge is we're actually out cutting that because the problem is if you neglect them, we're going to go right back to where we were. So unfortunately, I have to spend some money towards the upkeep. April last year was a disaster with the rain. We're seeing that again this April. But I do have intent to fix some of the drainage problems on some of these fields. As you know, there's a problem at the back of the football field. The water comes out of the hill. So it potentially may give me an opportunity to do some of those fixes. And I think any trade-off that we might have in money saved, I think it might be fair to put it into upgrading these fields. If I have the time and the manpower, That is our intent.
Right, because I know that there's that drainage problem too over at the Park and Rec where the pavilion is, where it comes down into the volleyball, the way that comes down.
I actually put a drain there last year.
Oh,
Yeah, so
okay.
that water is no longer a problem for the volleyball.
Oh, right. No, I'm just saying, like, I meant, like, you know, yeah, so I didn't know if it was fixed or not, but I know that there were those drainage things, and I'm just wondering that if, you know, with all of this, and I know you guys are always working, but all of this other time, you know, people not in the parks and doing all that other stuff, does it kind of like free up to where you can go in and, you know, see things that you don't normally see and start addressing things, like you said, that you can't normally, you know, address, because you can't go in and, you know, paint the swing sets because an hour later somebody's gonna be whipping down. I'm like, oh, I'm on the swings, and everyone's got paint everywhere. So I was just wondering.
It's a very fair point. We will try and do as much of that as we can. What we're finding now, though, look, it's a sign of the times. Is, you know, I have 3 people who twice a week are feeding seniors. You know, we're doing that from Public Works. I don't know anyone else to lay this cost off on. Somebody has to do it. We're feeding the homeless at the hotel. You know, so we're now doing things that we never thought we'd be doing. But it is just, it's a sign of the times, and when we get through it, we'll go back to doing normal stuff.
I'm not gonna ask. Does anyone else have any questions? Councilman Cohen?
Thank you, Chairwoman. Tom, just to kind of dovetail off of what the Chairwoman was saying is what I've, you know, because a lot of my constituents ask me just throughout the city beyond my district is, you know, and I realized you've just addressed it, but just to reinforce one fact is that, you know, while people are driving less, and to your point, it's opportunities to maybe do the park rec and look at the fields and so forth, but also the number of potholes. I know that our budget's $800,000. I know that we can't repave roads, but there's a lot of cold patches, but even more so the hot patches where they have to dig in and kind of level off some of the roads. So, you know, I'm just passing on what I'm hearing from my constituents is anything you guys can do to, you know, given your limited resources and knowing that you can't repave the roads, but to do some hot patches, to level off, you know, those areas and to do some cold patching. And I know that you guys have done a lot of it this year, and this is before the pandemic. And then when the pandemic started, you guys have been taken off to do these other things that aren't part of your job descriptions, if you will. But if I had a magic wand, the first priority that I'm hearing before the parks is definitely the roads and getting those potholes fixed and so forth, as much as the parks are also important. Everybody has a preference, everybody wants something, but by all means, it is those front end alignments and those flat tires that you don't hear about much right now, but you were hearing about a month ago, and we'll hear about them again once the warm weather comes. Just my comment on that, and in terms of the focus and emphasis of what I'm hearing out there. Thank you.
No question. I actually will agree with you. There's more we can do. I see potholes every day that blow my mind. So we have to be more aggressive on them. There's no question. I'll go back to when I said to you, there are some things you don't know until you know. For example, one of the great challenges we're having with bulk right now is everyone's home. So if you think about it, there's cars everywhere that wouldn't normally be there. It's costing us more in time, and we're behind because of that. It's much harder to move wood and furniture and stuff when it's open than working around cars. So that's the other thing we're finding is we're having to delay some of the projects we had planned because if you're home and your kids are home and they're going to school right now, the last thing they want to hear is a jackhammer out in front. So while it should be a perfect time for us to get some of this stuff done, we're finding new challenges we never thought about. I can't do some of the repairs we're doing because I can't shut down people's water to their houses when their kids are there. So,
well, you know,
this
I'm
is
sorry.
the reality we're finding.
Yeah, no, the reason why I bring it up is and you guys have been very patient with me. Your whole department's been patient with me when I'm asking for stuff and requesting things. And I know that in some cases a request goes out and, you know, and the guys, if they're asked to do a pothole patch, sometimes they say, well, no, you need a cold patch, you need a hot patch, you have to ask for that. And I'm like, well, gee, I'm not a road person, you know, I just want the holes fixed. So I just bring it out to you as, you know, that the guys might not know that they're allowed to take a little bit more initiative just to do it, if, you know, versus going by the rule of the law, saying, you know, a pothole versus a hot patch. I mean, I'm a Jewish boy. I don't know from this stuff. I make reservations. So, you know, but yeah.
Great point, and you take it to heart. There is more we can do. No problem.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I'm going to ask my question. I've talked myself into it. So I'm very civic minded, very, very civic minded, but I'm going to ask, how are we affording to feed these individuals? I'm not saying that we shouldn't, but we are a distressed municipality. They need to be fed, but I can't imagine we're going to run out of money, but are we able, like, are there grants out there? Is there something that we can get back from the federal or state government? I'm not sure, you know, we have our residents, we have other city residents as well. You know, are we getting help to do this? And I don't want anyone to go hungry. It would give me a complete meltdown to think that anybody would, but I just, you know, if this goes another 12 weeks, how are we going to maintain that?
So
I wasn't going to ask.
That's a great question. Here's my answer. No matter what we have to do, we will make sure people get fed for the next 12 weeks or 12 years, as long as we're here. Privately, we, and it's come out of the mayor's office, we've raised about $5,000 so far for Vertical Church. There are people I'm looking at on this screen who have put their hands in their pockets and have given me checks and given Lou checks for this. The short answer is the food is coming from the Board of Ed. The Board of Ed is required. So the meals that we are dropping over at the hotel are coming, you know, so it's already covered. The other food Vertical Church is buying. We've entered into a very good working relationship with Vertical Church, thanks to the majority leader. No short order for that relationship, and we're making it work. Are we doing things that we, you know, there's no line item for? Yes, but hopefully this is a once in a lifetime pandemic. We will figure out a way to keep people fed.
Okay, any other questions for Tom, Frank, Lou, Abdul? Huh? Oh. All right, with that said, Tom, I want to thank you again for joining us. I wish you and your team to stay safe and wash their hands as much as possible and wear their cute little masks. And we do appreciate all that you are doing for the city and everybody within our 10-mile radius. Thank you again.
We want to thank you for your efforts. We really do. Thank you for doing this.
No, thank you. Frank, I did have a question. I just wanted to ask you if we have found the line item. You could drop off, Tom, if you want. Thank you. If the money for the cameras for the police department to find the addition, I don't know if it, I don't have my email, but the additional money to come up with the 64,000 or whatever it was, so that they can buy them now and not wait until the next fiscal year.
That was the LoCIP funding that they were going to use, wasn't it?
Yes, but I had sent an email. Tell me if I'm wrong, Councilman Cohen, but I believe he or no, I'm sorry, Chairman had found like $65,000 in
In the current year.
that they would have paid for lease cars. And then we had asked to find the additional funds in their line items to make up the difference so that we could transfer it all so that they can repair the cameras now.
I have not heard of them finding additional monies. And frankly, I haven't had the time to look for that myself. I'm trying to get ready. I have a MARB meeting next week, so I need to get reports out to them by end of day tomorrow. So that's kind of been my focus, along with trying to get some of the vendors paid in last week's AP cycle. But I will make a note to myself to call the chief tomorrow and see if we can find the money for you.
Right, because I think we have an interest in doing it now so that it doesn't have to wait, because it is a safety issue. And if that 65,000 is there, you know, we were hoping that for Monday's meeting, we could get a request to transfer the funds and then start the process to get it all done. Because if we don't get the request to transfer from on Monday's meeting, we then have to wait until the middle of May. And my concern is that if we keep pushing it, we're not going to get it done in this fiscal year.
Okay. I will send an email to the chief tonight and set up a call with him tomorrow.
No, I would greatly appreciate that. And I do know that you're really busy, but I just feel that timing wise, there's just not enough time left in the year to kind of push it, you know, kick the can to the next city council meeting. That's all. So I would greatly appreciate that. Does anyone else have any follow-up questions or anything that they wanted to mention before we end for the evening? Mary, Councilman Cohen, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's fine. Oh, I've got a lot worse. Yeah, just to leverage what you said, Chairwoman, is my concern was, and just so, is that off the top of my head, I have it in front of me, it was 120,000 that was being started next year for the security cameras in the cell blocks. And so I believe it was the chairman who basically mentioned about the other 65. So I know it's probably not appropriate now, but my concern still remains that we want to make sure that we can do the whole job. You know, and if 60 or 65,000 can be reserved from this year's fund to get it going, to basically note what Bridget just said, I just want to make sure, at least I'll be recommending at some point or another when it's appropriate, that we take that capital expenditure that we're waiting for 2022 or whatever, and make sure it happens in 2021, because they need security cameras. And I know it's a capital investment, but we have to move that over and make our guys secure, make the prisoners secure. It's a health and safety issue. So that's all I wanted to say, and that was why I brought it up. I don't want to duplicate, but that's my take on it. That's all. Thank you so much.
Mary, are you raising your hand to be? Yes.
Yes, I am. Just to let the council members know, if you move something, so I'll just use the cameras because that's what everyone's talking about. If you move the 120 from 22 to 21, that can affect the mill rate. So I'm just want to make sure that everyone understands a 5-year plan, that those are all being bonded. Additionally, I did speak with the chief, and he does want, and I was going to tell Frank, he wants to take a look. He's very concerned about anyone taking the money out of this year, because what he's concerned with is he wants to make sure the lease payments and everything are right. So I'm going to ask Frank to just send over copies of whatever all the lease payments are, because he doesn't have copies of them anymore. He said they're all kept in finance, which I think they should be kept in finance, but I think the chief of police should have a copy of them as well, because I did speak with him afterwards regarding the cameras and regarding that money. And he is just concerned. He just wants to make sure before that 64,000 or whatever was identified, that it really, truly, the cars are either coming in late and he doesn't need that money.
I think, Chairman.
So my goal, and I think the chairwoman's goal, is to use the monies from 20 for the security cameras. We're not looking to push 22 to 21. We're looking to eliminate that expenditure altogether. So we'd actually reduce the capital 5-year plan for fiscal year 22 because we would like to find the money in FY20. I think that was my goal to it. So I understand that the chief needs to see if he needs that 65,000, but I think the request was any other monies that are available to do that project now as opposed to in another fiscal year.
Great.
Okay. And as I said, I think,
Man. No, I just want to make sure that because I was getting ready to speak myself, but go ahead, you can have the floor.
I just want to make sure that as I said, he was very concerned when I talked to him the day after the meeting when we discussed it, because he's concerned that if that money is gone and then his cars come in and he wants to make sure all the lease payments, and again, I think he should have the right to take a look over everything to make sure before we take any monies out of any accounts and move it around for him today. And that's great if we move it over, because if we can make it a little bit less than 22, that'll help the mill rate in that way. So that'd be great.
And I think real quick, Frank, that he does have extra money. We saw the extra money in his regular wages payroll. There was some additional funds that we used to purchase the handheld devices. And when I made that request to do that, there was still some extra funding there. And there's some extra funding in the snow removal fund over at Public Works. So I think that, I don't care if we take 5,000 here, 2,000 there, 1,000 there, but I am going to, until somebody tells me no, it's not going to work. I believe when I was looking at it, I found about $90,000 if we just, the snow removal fund. If Public Works doesn't need that, we could call over, like, do you need that? You do or you don't? I'm assuming they don't. We can use that. At least that's my understanding, that we can move money like that if we choose to. So that would be great. So if you can find out if he doesn't think about the lease money, but I just think that there might be money elsewhere. I just found 2 spots. Does anyone else have any questions, or Chairman?
No question, just a reminder. So tomorrow night at 6 o'clock is our special meeting to go over the governor's executive order regarding either a tax deferment program or a low interest rate program for individuals, for taxpayers. And after that meeting, the Finance Committee will meet at 7 o'clock. I believe it's planning and zoning tomorrow. So just a reminder on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that it? Well, then we are in recess at 7:35. Thank you so much, Frank. Thank you, Mayor Rossi. Bye, everybody. Stay safe.
Bye.
Wash your hands.